If you want to build your portrait or wedding photography business by booking new jobs, but you don't quite have the money to spend on paid marketing, then this is the video series for you.
Today, we're diving into something as simple as creating and maintaining a strong portfolio and how that can make or break any marketing you do in your photography business.
But before we jump into that, we want to introduce ourselves.
I'm Hunter.
And I'm Sarah.
And we're Hunter and Sarah Photography, a professional husband and wife wedding photography team.
But we're also educators, and our goal is to help photographers to build strong foundations in both their businesses and in their personal lives so that they can run profitable and sustainable photography businesses.
So last week we posted a video that was all about selling prints and wall art through your online galleries. So if you missed that or any of our past videos, feel free to check them out on our YouTube channel.
This week, we are kicking off a brand new series all about how newer photographers can market themselves and book paid jobs without spending a single dollar on social media ads or Thumbtack or services like The Knot.
So we're gonna spend the next 10 weeks, each week tackling just one item, and we're gonna try to make these videos pretty manageable so that each week you can take action and actually try out the method before we jump into the following tactic the next week. So let's dive right in.
Yeah.
So when Sarah and I think back to the early days of our photography business, we can really remember what it was like to not have any money to spend at all on marketing ourselves as portrait or wedding photographers, but we also still wanted to put our name out there in front of couples and families and seniors because we knew there were people out there looking for photographers just like us.
Yeah, so during that first year or two as photographers, we discovered these 10 ways that we could advertise our portrait and wedding photography services without spending any money on marketing.
And the big caveat at the front of this series is that there are obviously more advanced, but often more expensive ways to market yourself, right? And we know that for most portrait or wedding photographers just getting started who don't have any money to spend on marketing, that doing what's called bootstrapping or enterprising or basically just free marketing, you need a little bit of it. So here is our first tactic that is going to help you book those first paid jobs.
So we know it might seem a little bit odd to begin a blog series about marketing by talking about something that seems, very inward focused, but here's how.
The best marketing and advertising in the world will not do you any good if you aren't bringing people to a place that actually makes them want to buy from you, right? And that's why portfolio is important. If you don't have right now a good portfolio or even just a working website, then this is absolutely the very first step you need to take as you start on a marketing journey.
Yeah. Later on down the road, once you start to make a little money, you can start to think about investing in like a well-built website. And when you get pretty well established and have a thriving business, you can build a website with different kinds of content and landing pages that really bring people through a buying journey in a way that eventually leads to sales and conversions. But when you're first starting out, all you need is a strong portfolio, a collection of your best work.
And we're going to get into the specifics of exactly how you are going to build that portfolio later on in this video. But for now, just know that if you already have a functioning website, you've already started to build a portfolio, that really everything we're talking about in this video will apply to a simple portfolio or the most advanced website. But if you don't have either of those things, then let's dive right into building your very first portfolio.
Now, if you are very, very new to photography and haven't shot enough sessions to fill a portfolio, then you may be better off by getting started by asking some friends and some family if you can practice on them for free and then come back to this video series.
But even if you've just done like a handful of portrait sessions or you've just assisted or second shot on a wedding or two, then honestly, that's all you really need to build that first portfolio.
Yeah. And keep in mind, whatever you show in your portfolio, that's generally what people will trust you to capture. If your portfolio is filled with mainly family sessions with young children, it's going to be much easier to use that portfolio to book another family session with young children than it will be to book a college grad session or a wedding with that portfolio.
So if, for example, you do have a portfolio full of family photos, but you want to get into senior photography or wedding photography, like Sarah mentioned, then you may have to kind of get a little creative with assisting other photographers or shooting a few free sessions. And, so you might be a really well known and experienced family photographer, but you almost have to start over back at a new free photographer anytime you kind of delve into a totally new area of photography.
However, if your portfolio is strong enough, people may trust you to shoot new things for them. And this is actually the story of how we booked our very first wedding.
Yeah, so the first wedding we ever booked was for about $750, and literally we had never even set foot on a wedding day. Hadn't shot one. I had never been to a wedding since I was a 3-year-old ring bearer or something like that. So I'm not saying this is definitely like the right way to go. Honestly, if I could go back in time, I think I would have been probably better off having done some second shooting. But we booked that first wedding off of a strong portfolio full of portraits and just a few couple sessions. So it is possible to book beyond what your portfolio shows, but oftentimes it's going to be way more difficult than doing a couple of free sessions or second shooting jobs and then building that early portfolio.
Yeah, but okay. So now you've got all of your past work in front of you and you're ready to build your portfolio. But how could you possibly choose from all of these images?
The most important thing when it comes to filling a gallery is using your best photos. And I know that's like obvious, but we see our students break this rule all the time because they want to have a big portfolio, right? They want to show that they've done 10 or 15 different portrait sessions. They've shot 5 different weddings. So they'll choose the best from each of those jobs, but some of those jobs just aren't as strong as the others, right? We don't want you to mix in your best work with your okay work just to get a bigger portfolio, right?
Yeah, but even if it's just, 15 or 20 images from a small percentage of your very best shoots or weddings, images that, will really wow potential couples, they will do way, way more for you than 20 great images mixed in with 40 that are like pretty good from every session you've ever done. So even though you may feel like you haven't done a ton of sessions or weddings before, don't overcompensate and end up including less than stellar images. Quantity does not always equal quality.
So, okay, now that you know all this, it's time to actually start looking through your images. And a great exercise that we learned a few years ago is to ask yourself about each and every image that you're considering adding to your portfolio, does this make my overall portfolio stronger or does it make it weaker? And another question that you can maybe ask yourself as you're considering images is, would I be so incredibly proud? Would I be so excited if I saw my client post this photo to their social media and tag me in big, bold letters, right? Because if it isn't something that you are so proud to show people, and if it isn't something that's going to make your overall portfolio stronger, then don't add it, right? If you feel like that image is going to bring your portfolio from a 9.5 to a 10 or from a 7.5 to an 8, then add it. But even if it just brings you from a 6 to a 5.5, it's not worth it. You only want images that are just going to keep elevating your portfolio every time you update it.
And by the way, sometimes it can help to ask another photographer or a mentor or even just a friend whose opinion about photography you trust.
We know not everyone knows other photographers or has photography friends.
Yeah, sometimes you can look at the same images for so long or even become emotionally invested in images that it can make it hard to be fair when judging the best from the good but not great.
I kept images from our first wedding in our portfolio way longer than I should have because I was emotionally attached to those images, right? I was like, this is that first couple that took a risk on us. And it took Sarah kind of making it very clear to me that the images weren't good enough to stand on their own in the portfolio. At this point, they were several years old. I just was emotionally invested, right? So sometimes having an objective third party can help make your portfolio stronger.
Yeah, just make sure you pick someone who you can trust that the way they tell you this one's great and this one's good but not so great in a way that you'll take well.
Yeah,
I think
true.
that's a good piece.
Find your nice friend who loves you. But so on to the next section. The reason that this video is called Part 1, Maintain a Strong Portfolio, not Part 1, Make a Strong Portfolio, is because updating your portfolio frequently is one of the most important things that you can do for your marketing, especially early on in your career when you're growing with almost every single shoot. Now, we recommend every single month to our new students or to our students who are new to photography. But at minimum, even for us, even for Sarah and I, 7-8 years into our wedding photography journey, still quarterly at absolute minimum.
Yeah. We've seen so many photographers just make this mistake. They spend hours making a fantastic portfolio, and because of that, they book some jobs and they get a little busy. They get caught up in the day-to-day of running their business, and even though their work is getting better and better with each shoot and wedding, their portfolio doesn't change. They get so busy that they have to up their prices, and
which is a great problem to have.
It's a great problem to have, but they up their prices and the bookings stop coming in. Why would that be? And it's because your portfolio hasn't changed.
Honestly, this is why updating your portfolio frequently is so important, especially when you're just getting started, right? Like I said, early on in your career, you will find that every time you go out and shoot, or almost every time, you have some rough days, of course, but almost every time you're going to feel like you're getting better, producing better images, getting more confident. So even if you're just shooting a few times a month, you're still probably taking 1 or 2 images every month that are going to, bring you from that 8.5 to a 9. So why would you leave them out, right?
Yeah. So here's an example of why this is important. Let's say you invest the time and the energy into making that great portfolio, and you set your prices at $150 for a 1-hour family session. Your portfolio does its job, along with some of the other marketing tactics that we're going to get into like later on in this series, and you start booking jobs.
So in this scenario, let's say over the next 6 months, you just start booking and booking and shooting, and you do a ton of those jobs at $150 per session. And honestly, you get booked so much, you start to feel a little bit like, ooh, maybe I'm too busy. I'm almost feeling a little overwhelmed. So you follow our advice and you up your prices and you say, okay, let's see how $225 does for that same 1-hour session. But the problem is, if you haven't updated your portfolio over the course of that 6 months, when people come to your website, what they're seeing is a $150 photographer, because that's who you are when you made that portfolio, not the $225 photographer you are now, right? You can almost freeze yourself in time by not updating your portfolio frequently enough.
Yeah. So now that you understand why you need a strong portfolio, let's talk about how you are actually going to build it.
And for starters, we're going to assume that you have watched our post-production secrets video series. So all of the images that you've taken over the last few months or years or whatever are now very neatly organized into your Lightroom primary catalog.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, updating your portfolio regularly is really easy.
All you have to do is tell Lightroom to find all of your best portrait images since the last time that you've updated your portfolio. And obviously, if you are building it for the first time, you'll need to look at all the best images that you've taken so far.
So here's an example. So let's say that we were sitting down to update our portfolio for the first time since March of this year. That's about 3 months ago. What we can do is click all photographs, then use the metadata tab up here at the top of Lightroom to fetch us only images from April, May, and June of this year. Then we can just select the type of photography that we want. So let's say just wedding photography. And then we can tell it, hey, only show us the 3 and 4-star images. And as a reminder back to our post-production secrets series, these 3 and 4-star images are the ones that we thought were so good that they either made it into the blog, which is the sort of limited, maybe 20 to 30 best photos from a session, or even onto social media, which is often only like the 10 best from an entire wedding day. So we're already looking at the very best of the best from everything we've shot over the last 3 months. So now rather than selecting from, tens of thousands of images, it's like a couple hundred, maybe less, and it makes it for a much easier decision.
Yeah. Once we have this selection in front of us, it's just a matter of selecting the best of the best and adding them to a collection so we have them for future use, and then exporting them.
And then once the images are exported, it's as simple as uploading them to some sort of online gallery that is presentable. Now, you can use something like as simple as like Dropbox or Google Photos, but if you've watched any of our past videos, you know that we're big proponents of Pixieset. And again, it's not because they pay us. We really just believe it's a really strong app, especially for some of the free features that they let you use to get started. So we love the way that their final galleries look. So here's as an example, this is what our engagement session portfolio looks like that we will often show to couples during a consultation meeting for wedding photography.
Yeah, but other than that, that's it. You just repeat this process every month or two.
And don't forget that as you're going, you also should be removing the oldest and weakest images each time you update your portfolio, as you want the overall quality to grow, not just the overall quantity. But guys, that's it. That's it for this week.
Yeah. If you haven't already, we would really encourage you to join our Facebook community, Mastering the Wedding Photography Biz with Hunter and Sarah. In that group, we're building a free community of other photographers who are also building their photography businesses and just helping each other along the way. This is a great place to ask for help as you build your first portfolio.
And like we mentioned, this is part 1, and we think it's going to be a 10-part series, and it's all about free marketing methods for photographers. We're going to be posting a new video every single week, and so please make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff so that you do see when we post our new content.
Yeah, and if you found this video helpful, if you have questions, if you'd like to add anything you feel like we missed, go ahead and just comment below.
All right, well, that's it, guys. We'll see you next week, and in the meantime, get started on that portfolio update.